it's been great to be pulled to other parts of London that I might not have gone, right? If I wasn't chasing a story. I don't think I would have gone to north of Arsenal if I wasn't invited up to go to an amateur baseball practice. I would regretfully probably not have gone out to Battersea Power Station and seen that area and how it's changed, if not for the opportunity to watch the Cardinals Nationals game with some fans last night. So it's nice to be drawn away from the usual kind of places that I check off when I visit. And go out and seek stories, not go out and seek tourist traps.
And I wanted to mention this, and I don't know the number. I'm going to put you on the spot, but just to tell our audience, you and your wife Erica and your son Ian, you're. I'm going to call you world travelers. You've been to a lot of countries. You very rarely get a lot of time off, but you do take it. I don't know whether to call it a block of time or what, but you take a block of time, for lack of a better term, to go out and explore. And I just know from being your friend and also, keeping up with you through social media, you've been to a lot of places around the world. And how important is that to you? I can tell that that's actually really important to you and Erica and Ian.
Yeah, it's super important to Erica and I. It's something that was really important to me. It's one of the draws of being a sports writer when you're young. I enjoyed travel, always did. When I had a car, I would go places. I always enjoyed.
Derrick Goold
enjoyed the chance to go.
Right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's
I always enjoyed a chance to go somewhere new and explore. Whether that's in college, I popped down to Stillwater to see Kurt Vonnegut give a speech, or up to Lincoln, Nebraska to see what it's like to cover a football game there. It's that appeal. But when you have a chance to also see the world, why not take advantage of it? There's a lot of different places that that I wanted to chase and see, and there's still a lot more that I haven't been. When I was a student at Mizzou, I wanted to study abroad, because what better way to kind of get to know the world or a different culture, or even be challenged in how you're thinking, than to have to have to unpack at a place and contend academically. It's super important. And Erica loves travel and prioritizes it, and she writes about travel. She has a career going covering writing about travel, so that's also been a part of it. And we dragged the kid along whether he liked it or not. But he's an adventurous soul because I think because of it. He's off. Next year he and I are going on a backpacking trip together, which is really important. It's the same thing that my dad and I did when I was his age. So it's nice to kind of have the places to go, the interest and curiosity to do so, and the means to do so to make the most of it.
Derrick Goold with us from London, of course, there to cover the Cardinals and the Cubs. And I wanted to ask you this.
Sure.
You did a lot of advanced scouting, so to speak, before you even got close to flying over to the UK. And you've been, roaming around a little bit, and I know you've been talking to people about baseball there. And what is your sense about the popularity of baseball in England? Is it growing? And if it's growing, is it growing in a rapid way or kind of a slow, incremental way? Just give us a feeling about perhaps the future of the sport in London.
It's growing. Growing at a glacial pace, it sure feels like. But let's see, capable of accelerating that because of access. One of the things that I was struck by was, like, when I was here in the 90s, it was day-old, 2-day-old, 3-day-old box scores that I had access to. And keeping up with baseball was tricky. And now it's not. Now it's on the phone. Now it's on the alerts. Now it's, now they can watch MLB TV. They can get the highlight packages. I talked with a gentleman today who is an official with Major League Baseball in some of the international development, and he was talking about how they've more than doubled their interaction with social media and digital coming out from pre-pandemic to now coming out of it. Their interest has doubled, more than doubled, and it was about 100,000 interactions and active followers, all that stuff. When the Yankees and Red Sox came over, now it's double that, in part because they are doing more with it. They're packaging for, the shorter bits and the brighter, or the viral notions of social media. They're fitting baseball into where the audience is and growing the audience that way. So, it's a real question. I'm trying to tackle it actually as I write today. A little bit about where the fans are here, where the Cardinals fit into this whole thing is fascinating. Like where, are they, it's really interesting to me because like the Cardinal fans, like Cardinals history is something that we all know so well living in St. Louis. And you really know living in Los Angeles and living in Queens and, living on the north side of Chicago, you know Cardinals history. And there's probably, a good portion of baseball fans that could say, yeah, they've won the National League. They won the most World Series in the National League, or the Yankees of the National League, that kind of thing. That doesn't come up. I've been able to talk to some Cardinal fans here. One of them was a sports writer here for 50 years, covered lots of different sports, is retired now, but is coming out of retirement to write a story about his beloved Cardinals for the paper. And then there's, the younger fans here. And why they gravitate towards the Cardinals is different with each guy. But no one brought up the 11 championships, which I thought was interesting.
Derrick Goold with us from London. Let's talk some baseball. And I guess my number one issue as I look at the team right now is Nolan Gorman, because it isn't that I am doing a Chicken Little on it. I'm not. I mean, and I think very highly of Nolan Gorman, but he's also really essential to the team. And his to say that he's gone cold is an obvious understatement. What do you think is going on? Has he is he sort of got back? Has he kind of gone in reverse in the way that they were getting him out late last summer when they figured out, okay, this is where his holes are? Or have they sort of gone back to those spots and he's going to have to recalibrate all over again? Just give us your assessment of it.
Yeah, it's probably to be expected a little bit. He wasn't alone in trying to force the issue offensively or breaking from, like trying to chase the production when the team was struggling, all those things. And you throw in the added fact that, last year there was a way for pitchers to get him out. And, they're going back to that book a little bit. And he is not adapting. The plus side of it is he knows what to do and can correct it quickly. For the Cardinals, the plus side is there's already kind of like a little bit of jam that they can address by having somebody else do some DH time, right?
Right.
But for the most part, like you're right. I mean, his power and that left-handed power, it really stands out and adds length to the lineup. And he was going really well there between Goldschmidt and Arenado. You could argue that they're probably at their best offensively when somebody is there producing. You think back to Tyler O'Neill doing so well there, and then briefly this year, Gorman. You probably could make that argument, but he can't be in that prominent spot while he's struggling like that. Can't be in that prominent spot while teams have a way to neutralize him. I think it's a case where it took significant changes and discipline and his effort in the offseason, but that should shorten the time that he does the same thing this time around.
Sure. I hope so, and that's logical. So, but it's very interesting to monitor this because not that I thought everything was behind him. He's still developing, but he's had a setback, and we'll find out more about him during this.
The amount of strikeouts are alarming. The amount of strikeouts stand out.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, they're quite. They're quite significant.
There's a lot of you talk about like major league hitters that have 50 plate appearances this month, and it's a long list of them. It's 200 and some. He's basically essentially tied for the highest strikeout rate in the majors with Brandon Marsh of the Phillies, although Marsh is just like 0.5% less than or more than Gordon. So than Gorman. So it is alarming for sure. Hey, how do you Derrick Goold with us from London, very nice to have him on. How do you it's early in the process, so to speak, but with Nootbaar back and Ali Marmol committed to playing Tommy Edman in center, and I know you've talked so much with him about this. How do you think it's working out so far? And how would you expect or anticipate he'll be able to work it in a way where everyone keeps busy? Carlson keeps busy, Walker keeps busy. We all assume Newt and Edman are kind of like maybe the fixtures out there for the most part. Walker is too, but there will be times maybe when he will DH. I don't know. So let me shut up and just turn it over to you. How do you assess the situation, and can Ali make it work in the team's favor?
Yeah, I think Gorman is part of that, right? Like if he's struggling, then you have another DH, and where does Burleson get a look there, or is that where Walker appears at times, or does all of a sudden second base then become in play, and or is it just entirely Donovan then with Tommy in center field? I just think it's more than the outfield that's in play at this moment. You mentioned DH, but I think the second base, and it's been that way really since the beginning. You look at those four positions have just been so related this year with the defensive aspect, right? Like they've all struggled defensively. Part of the reason was because they haven't had any stability, and part of the reason is because you've got players learning those positions, particularly like Jordan Walker in the outfield. Which, to your point about like how does this all break down, they're going to prioritize time for Walker in the outfield so that he gets that experience because that's his future, and they're trying to do. It's so interesting. They're trying to do something that everybody just takes for granted right now as part of baseball. And you think back, Bernie, to 10, 12, 14 years ago, where it was like, Tony La Russa told us, you don't develop in the big leagues. Remember that?
That's right. That's right.
Like he just laid down that line. And now it's like, well, you develop everybody in the big leagues. There's no they're developing them in new positions in the big leagues. And, so you have to, once you do that, you have to say, all right, well, we're going to commit the innings to do it and give them experience at the speed of the game. So I think you're right. Like the thumb is on the scale for innings in the outfield for Jordan Walker. Nootbaar and what Tommy Edman has done in center field is very fascinating because, is that just a one-off? Is this just the latest position that he's going to play for a year, and then next year he's back to shortstop? If they, where does he fit? Or does his offense profile, better at center field? Which he hasn't had the most robust month either.
Right.
Good game, good series, and strong play, uptick, and what you're going to get from him, all that stuff. But the Cardinals' struggles were not. While the attention was on certain players, they weren't isolated to certain players. Tommy was also having his struggles offensively, and because of that, the running game was lapsing. So I think it's a long way of saying, Bernie, that they can use production as their guide, and they're probably going to get in that spot for who plays how much where. But they are also going to try to have their cake and eat it too with development of players. And I'm really, really interested in what part of that equation is Tommy Edman. Is Tommy Edman the guy who's playing center field because of the production, or is Tommy Edman the guy playing center field because that's his future? And what's the answer there?
It's very well said. I'm trying to think what else in terms of a pressing baseball issue. Carlson's back, Nootbaar's back, so that part's settled in. The defense in the outfield's been better. The defense really in the infield's fine. I mean, other than the fact, Arenado hasn't been vintage Arenado, but I think he will be going forward.
Sure.
You and I have talked about this quite a bit, and people who listen think I'm kind of obsessed with Paul DeJong, and maybe I am, but only in a good way, to where I appreciate the value he's brought to this year's team, and he has done that.
I met his biggest fan in the world last night. That's what I was told. Yeah, one of the fans here from London. Huge Paul DeJong fan.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Huge Blues fan and a huge Paul DeJong fan.
I really appreciate what he's done, and and of course I'm factoring in that he's streaky and there's going to be some ugly slumps, but his overall game and his defense, I mean, he's got 4 outs above average, yet there's like 21 shortstops in the majors that played a lot more innings than him. So, and the strikeouts are there, the 2 for 25s are in there, but to get the wins above replacement and the slugging percentage, the OPS and the defense, to me, it's one of the unexpected bonuses of the season. I still don't understand people who disparage him. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I had this conversation last night actually with Paul DeJong's number 1 fan in the world, and I kind of understand where you're coming from, because play good shortstop, provide occasional power, bat 8, that's pretty good, right? That's not bad.
Yeah.
That helps. Bat 7th, put a crooked number up there, okay. But he's there to play good defense, and he's there to slug at a position where you don't normally slug for a team that can get that on-base percentage elsewhere. I kind of see where that fits, right? I kind of understand how he's a pretty good player for the Cardinals. That's not the lineup that's not the lineup the Brewers have. They need somebody different at shortstop. That's not the lineup. That's not the roster that the Cubs have built with Dansby Swanson. They need somebody different at shortstop. But there are teams, we've seen them, who do pretty good if they have a shortstop who can pick it, can have a low average, but when he connects and he hits it far, and they don't need him to back cleanup, right? That's
exactly.
The other part of it is if he bats 8, that's a fit. That's a good fit. But that does rely on everybody else kind of doing their part.
Yeah, he's again, we're familiar with his imperfections. I always feel I have to mention that, because the haters just, oh, you didn't bring. I noticed you didn't bring this up. Well, we're aware of his flaws and his imperfections. The dude batting 8th is his home run ratio this year. Batting wherever he bats, but to your point, a lot of times he's down there at 8. His home run ratio this year is he hits a home run every 15.7 at bats.
Not too shabby.
I think that's good. So anyway,
that's not too shabby.
The other thing I don't understand about this, did Paul DeJong and his agent, did they break into the Cardinals' offices one dark night and get on a computer and then fill in a contract for him? Without the Cardinals' knowledge, it's what? I mean, why are you mad at him because he signed a contract that the Cardinals offered? That's actually the craziest part of this.
Yeah,
they offered him a contract and he signed it. Whatever. Yeah. I know. I always love talking about this because it's just you just don't understand why people can't process things with their brains. I don't know. I guess I'm guilty of the same thing. One more thing and we'll let you go, and I appreciate your time. You wrote about they've modified the ballpark since the Yankees and the Red Sox. were scoring whatever they did. They averaged like 47 runs per game or something. I'm exaggerating on purpose. What did they do? They're making it a little tougher yard to hit one out. Is that basically what it comes down to? Tell us how they've revised the playing field or the pitch.
So less foul territory. Changed the dimensions so that it's deeper in the gaps. It's still under 400 to center, but it's a 16-foot wall in center. So, like, to get it over, you still have to hit it more than 400 feet, right? It's just that the outfielder runs out of space quicker. The turf, I actually walked the turf today. It was kind of cool to be out there. I didn't cross the white lines because I don't do that unless it's like a championship, right? That's when you go out there to talk to the players when you cross the white lines. But I walked around the pitch, if you will, as you said, and it's not as spongy or as bouncy, depending on who you talk to. That was true for the pitchers on the mound. They felt like it was a bit of a recoil, a bit of a stepping on like a I don't what would be a description, stepping a little bit on like a bounce house, maybe a firm bounce house. And obviously that had to do with some of the pitching. So they've changed it in that regard. The dirt is the same. It's not the same dirt, but it's from the same place and set up the same way. The turf is new for this. It's not the turf that was used in 2019. So those are some of the elements of it. The most significant is if you walk around. I wasn't here in 2019, but I watched those games and talked to the people who were there. And I remember like seeing photos and talking to some of my friends who were at the game, who then sent me photos. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that foul territory is massive. And it's not now. It's way different.
Mr. Goold, thank you for your time. Enjoy. I know you're working, but enjoy the experience as you already have, and I know you will. And we'll safe travels back to the U.S.
Thanks.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I have to come back.
You don't have to. I mean, I think
cool.
Major League Baseball, like MLB.com, for example, they could use a London-based correspondent, and they would pay him a great deal of money. So maybe take them up on that if they offer.
No, that's the one. That works out with the time zones. Yeah, no, that's really appealing.
Take it easy, pal.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks, Marty.
All right, that's our friend Derrick Goold from London. I didn't want to ask him about just baseball, just the Cardinals, because I always appreciate his curiosity, not only about sports and baseball, but just his curiosity about any number of things, including world travel. And I also was trying to get a sense of whether baseball matters at all in the UK, and I don't expect it to, but I do think it's interesting that MLB, still feels it's worth it for them to take the game to England, and they wouldn't do that unless they thought there was growth potential. I mean, I like it. I didn't like Yankees Red Sox because it wasn't baseball. I mean, basically the way they had the ballpark set up and the way those teams just made a mockery of the game through no fault of their own, by the way. That's the yard they were given to hit in, but they could have just Rob Manfred, could have just said, look, instead of playing 9 innings, we're just going to play, home run derby for 2 days. We'll just have all these matches. Whatever team comes out on top, wins the series 2-0. I mean, that would have actually been at least representative of the stuff we were watching, because it wasn't baseball, So I really appreciate they modified the playing dimensions, and it's going to be, it's going to be, we anticipate it's going to be more like baseball. So we'll see.